The Hammer of Grungni is now available on the Steam Workshop, and there is quite a lot to discover. So to act as a reference for all the editions, I have created this video. The first mechanic that we will examine is the Stonemasons building chain. There are 12 different dwarf holds across the map which allow the player to construct the new buildings. These holds include Karaz Akarak, Sufbar, Karak 8 Peaks, Karak Kadrin, Karak Azul, Karak Hern, Karak Asgal, Karak Norn, Karak Ungor, Karak Izor, Karak Zorn, and Kraka Drak. There are 3 levels of building: the Masonry Enclave, which provides public order at the cost of growth, the Guild Hall, which allows for the recruitment of the new stonemason units, and the Stonemasons chapters, which provide upgrades to the stonemason units the player has recruited. Each of the stonemason chapter buildings provide a different buff to the stonemason combat stats, ranging from additional leadership in Karaz Akarak, to increased melee attack in Karak Izor, to a buff to bonus v large from Karak Kadrin. The new stonemason unit type comes in 2 flavours. The first variant comes with a weapon and shield, and are better at fighting infantry, while the second variant drops the shield to have a great weapon and are better at fighting large targets. These units do not gain combat buffs from the Lord's Red Line like other troops, only from the new Runeword system or from the stonemason chapter buildings you have constructed. These new stonemason buildings also play a part in Thorgrim's mechanic, requiring the player to capture certain holds in order to access upgrade tiers. That wraps up the stonemasons and their upgrades mechanic, so onto the mechanics of the individual legendary lords. And first up we have the High King, Thorgrim Gudgebearer. Thorgrim's unique mechanic is a straightforward one. He has access to a new screen where the player can spend Oath Gold to unlock combat bonuses to specific unit types. The upgrades are arranged in 3 different categories, which are purely aesthetic in the current version, though this may change in future updates. Each upgrade has 3 tiers of bonuses it provides, which are locked behind building requirements, with the cost to purchase the upgrade increasing with each tier. To unlock the different tiers, the player needs to have built the following. For Tier 1, the player needs to have built a Masonry Enclave in either Karaz Akarak or Zufbar. To access Tier 2 upgrades, requires a Masonry Enclave building in any one of Karak 8 Peaks, Karak Kadrin, Karak Azul, or Karak Hern. To access the 3rd tier, requires a Masonry Enclave building in any one of Karak Asgal, Karak Norn, Karak Ungor, or Karak Izor. That wraps up Thorgrim's mechanic, so let's move on to Grombrindal, who has a mechanic that requires him to gather a new resource called Valor. This resource can be earned from battles and then spent on rewards in a new user interface screen. The upgrades are laid out in a number of branches, and as the player purchases certain upgrades, it will unlock the access to others on that branch. The upgrades increase in cost and power as the player progresses through the different branches. The next mechanic we will examine is the Ancestral Renown system for Belegar Ironhammer. He gains a new passive resource called Renown from winning battles, which is represented on a new user interface element on the main campaign screen. This bar shows the current tier of the Renown system that the player has unlocked, along with the army abilities that are available at that tier. There are 10 tiers to the mechanic, with new army abilities being unlocked at tiers 3, 5, 7 and 9. The remaining tiers provide combat boosts to your lords and heroes. The army abilities available are as follows. Tier 3 provides the Rune of Ruin, which will debuff enemy targeted units. Tier 5 gives you the Rune of Restraint, which will hold an enemy unit in place for a short period. Tier 7 gives us the Rune of Regeneration, where your entire army regenerates health for a short period. Tier 9 provides the Rune of Ragnarok, which deals damage over an area as rocks fall from the sky. Ungrim has a mechanic that revolves around locating and defeating beasts in monster hunts that are triggered every 20 turns, starting on turn 15. The player has 15 turns to locate the beast's army and defeat them in battle. If the player ignores the beast army and lets the 15 turn timer expire, then nothing happens. If the player attacks the beast army and loses, then the beast army will disappear and be removed from the campaign. If the player is able to defeat the army, then they are given the option of slaying the beast to gain a new resource called a claim, or they can choose to tame the beast and recruit it into their army via the Regiment of Renown panel. The new acclaim resource can be spent on upgrades of Slayer units, in much the same way that greenskins can use scrap. There are 4 upgrades available. A Slayer can be turned into a Berserker, which is an anti-infantry, or an Harasser, which is a fast anti-ranged. Giant Slayers can be upgraded to Beast Hunters, which are anti-large, or Dragon Slayers, which are fire-resistant anti-large. There are 6 beasts to be hunted down, which you can slay or tame, depending on how the player wants to play the game. The final mechanic is the heart and soul of the Hammer of Grungni mod. This is the Runeword Forging mechanic, which is available to all 4 of the legendary lords, with each lord having a different bonus in the forge system. Thorgrim can use multiple runes from the same category, going all offensive or all defensive if the player wants. When Grombrindal crafts a rune, the offensive and general stats values are doubled, while the defensive stat value is halved. Belegar gets a reduction in the cost of crafting, 5 oath gold for each tier. He also has access to 3 runeword slots instead of the standard 2. Ungrim gets an additional bonus versus large stat added to the crafted runeword. The value of this stat is equal to the lowest value of the selected runes. Much like Belegar, he has access to 3 runeword slots. To create a runeword, the player just has to click on the runes they want, and they will be added to the bottom of the screen. Then they just need to click Craft, and the runeword is created and assigned to the first free runeword slot. If all slots have an active runeword, then the slot with the runeword with the least number of turns remaining is used. All runewords currently last for 10 turns. When creating a runeword, there is always a bonus effect added to the runeword. This bonus effect takes the lowest value of the selected runes and is a different stat based on the combination of runes the player has selected. So for example, selecting the rune of cleaving, the rune of shielding and the rune of seeking will give a charge bonus. Selecting the master rune of slaying, the rune of shielding and the rune of seeking will give a melee attack bonus. There are also 4 hidden units which can be unlocked by the combination of certain runes in a runeword. When the player crafts a runeword with one of these combinations, they are presented with an event pop-up that informs them of the unit that has been unlocked. The units are added to the Regiments of Renown panel, and the player can recruit several of each variant into their armies. The hidden units that can be unlocked are the Great Cannon, the Runic Mortar, the Mark II Gyrocopter, which spits fireballs, and the Mark III Gyrocopter, which fires a rocket barrage. In addition to the mechanic, there is also a new ranged unit which can be recruited. These are the Thunderer Marksmen, which come in a unit of 24 expert shots, who can fire further and hit harder than the standard Thunderer unit. Well, that covers what can be found in the Hammer of Grungni mod. I hope that you enjoy the additions which I have made to the Dwarfs and provide feedback on the mechanics included. If you enjoy the mod or my videos, why not subscribe to the channel and click that like button. I'd like to end the video with a shout out to my patron, Hot Apple Pie. Thanks for the continued support, mate. If you would also like to support the channel, why not check out my Patreon page. I'm Grey Tiger, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.